man. I'm really fixated on this idea of speaking about systems because I think that we need to, there's a lot of things that we've put our time, attention, and energy in right now. And we really, really need to get rid of that. Like, we just need to completely say, let's have a shift because what we realize is that if we've been doing this whole time and it hasn't been working, then the problem is not our powers. The problem is not our energy. The problem is not our genius. It's where we're focusing at, right? And at some point in time, you can reach a ceiling. And once you reach that ceiling, you have to shift, right? And when you make that shift, that's when you start to see things change. And it's usually small tweaks.
Mhm.
It's not the entire thing. You make small tweaks, right? And when you're talking about systems, right, you're talking about things that are organized to flow and function
Mhm.
consistently,
Mhm.
right? So excellence has to be a system,
Mhm.
right? But we operate off brilliance. Oh, I like what you did, right? We have
Yep.
these moments of brilliance instead of creating systems because these systems can be sustained, right? A system is like, yo, when your child grows up, don't just think about how to get them out the pipeline of prison system. What's the pipeline of wealth system for them? What's the pipeline of power? How do you set them up to where you're introducing them to networks and relationships that they'll have for the rest of their life, right?
Mhm.
Like, how many people can say, hey, this childhood friend that I went to school with and person that I've known is the same person that hired me or I did business with or I had partnership with or is my political connection or tied to something. Not many of us can say that. But when you go look at the background history of those who are in power, who are in these 8-figure and 7-figure positions in life, and they gonna start telling you their life story, and then you start to find a pattern of relationships and networks that people
Mhm.
put them in. Not saying I was the smartest kid in the class. That means nothing towards the success that you're gonna have in life. What about the smartest system that you're in that allows you to go there, right?
Yep.
So we
Yes.
need a completely new narrative on reality and not just from a standpoint of how do we defeat the past, because you can't defeat the past. The past is simply a lesson. How do you control your present, which allows you to create systems that move forward in time, right? That can create consistent results that we can rely on. That is a completely different reality. And it starts with self knowledge because self knowledge teaches you the greatest system, which is the body,
Mhm.
right? Everything in the body has a system to it, or the whole body has a system to it, right? We have electrical and nervous systems within our body. We have organs, right? Every organ has to have a role and a job to do, and it has to work properly, right? So that the whole body, right, the body system is in function. The immune system is not one part of the body. It is a system of things working in coordination, right? So that the body stays healthy. We have the financial system. The financial system, when we see that the financial system is stressed, it's because there are multiple things, right, going on. Like in a car, you see a red light, then you see another light. You say, "Oh shit, wait a minute. Maybe I could ignore one red flag, but two, there's a problem with the system.
You gotta
Something
pay attention.
same with
Mhm.
people."
Yeah. So a question is, when a system gets broken,
Mm-hmm.
because you come to Wilmington to talk about reparations and repairs. For a community like mine, from where I'm from, we started off with 60% black folks, and now it's at 15%. And the community is trying to figure out ways that we repair these systems. And this kind of goes full circle the way you were starting the conversation earlier about consultation, about that training. You know what I mean? I feel like there was a generation that didn't want to pass that baton, didn't want to pass that knowledge, didn't want to pass those connections, didn't want to show how the structure was set up. And so as trauma happens, because it's a continuous war with us trying to strive for greatness, um, they got caught up in that, and then before you know it, COVID wiped out half of the OGs, and now there is a gap, and there is a lot of gaps that need to be fulfilled, and so when it comes to like broken systems, how can you break down where's the first or most important part to start with rebuilding?
I think broken systems. Identifying the broken systems is interesting, but understanding that we're not dealing with per se broken systems, we're dealing with working systems. And then realizing that understanding the way the system works, there's no bliss in ignorance, right? That's not how it works, right? It's a lie because that place that you live in allows you to be taken advantage of, right? So number one is education, because if everybody is educated on the way something works, right, then they know how to use it. They know how to avoid the traps of it, right? And then once you know how something works, then you can create your own. So when we're dealing with working systems. The prison system is a working system,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
The
Yeah.
military industrial complex is a working system, right? America financial system is a working system. It's just we never knew how they worked.
Mm.
So when we took a look and we started getting educated, we looked and said, wait, the banks only give us 0.6% return on interest. So they taking my money, they taking 80% of that once I put in the bank or more, and they flipping it, and they're not giving me any profit or return on that investment. No, and then they charging me for them to flip my money while giving me nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my money is now
Facts.
outperforming the market. If I would have just put it in an S&P 500 or the bond market, or if I would have invested into self, then we like, wait a minute. We start saying the system is broken because we like these supposed to work for us. No, there's a way the system works, and because you were ignorant of it, they took advantage of your naivety, right?
Mm.
And so education system is working because it wasn't designed to enlighten, not for poor people.
Mm.
There's an education system for an upper class,
Yeah.
so they teach them how to operate within the system, right?
Gain to
So then
bestow.
that's a completely different conversation. So the goal is education on working systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then creation of systems. Because once you know how they work, you can create your own. I just seen the
Absolutely.
other day a black business, a black couple or group or whatever
Mm-hmm.
bought a white-owned bank. Now it is black-owned. I've been saying this for years, that the greatest strategy here, because we used to complain all the time, why you sell your company? It was black-owned, now it's white. And I said, well, you know that's a strategy, right?
Yeah, that's the fun.
Let
That's the
somebody else
plan.
build the business, and if you buy it, it's now black-owned. Ownership is, right, is who
Mm-hmm.
has control over it.
Yep.
So we will get mad at when we sing blueprints and systems work instead of learning it and saying, let's duplicate that for ourselves because that works good. Military generals always study other military generals. They study their enemy the best because they need to know how they work, especially if they're smarter than you. So these people are operating with systems that are brilliant, right? And while we are repulsed by them because we're getting the blunt end of them, right? We're not learning from them so that we can create them of our own. And every race has a system so that they can become wealthy, except black people. We complain about working systems instead of create our own working system.
Mm. Facts. And so when we talk about creating working systems, right? As you see the push to try to get rid of us pushing our history in schools and educating ourselves on our, where we came from in our history. Do you see that it's a big push now to maybe start building schools at an elementary, middle school, high school level, the kind of the same way that HBCUs stepped out there to provide that level of higher education for us? Or do you feel like it starts with, um, the example that you just threw out there about the couple purchasing the bank? You know what I mean? Is it finance? Is it economics first, or is it education?
It's both.
What's the chicken
They
or the
go
egg?
hand in hand.
Yeah.
Economics and education go hand in hand. You don't give a fool money. You know what I'm saying? A fool and his money will soon part ways.
Absolutely.
So it's like we ask for reparations, and that's a conversation we go get on.
Absolutely.
But how many fools do you want to get that money to? You know,
Yeah.
like how do we
Yeah.
get to a point where the conversation has to involve accountability and has to involve education? Because we don't lack financial power, right? Because we have money. The issue is in our habits, right? That's what a repairment really is. The biggest issue is in our habits and not having enough time to get it right. Because one generation trying to get it right, and what if you fail? Then the next generation got to start over and over and again, and it becomes compoundly harder and harder as generations are improving, and yours hasn't caught up yet, right? It's like children in school keep skipping you in grades, right? And you're dealing with all these issues of the mind, trying to catch up, but they're getting smarter the longer it takes you to get smarter. Now they done graduated by the time you done made it to the next grade, right? Now they getting higher degrees. Now they goddamn owning schools, and you still now you trying to goddamn get congratulations from graduating, and they like, bro, we way past that. We on a whole nother mission. We three, 4 generations in. You barely passing the class and the test. So the education has to happen because that's where you repair the minds, right? And we have so many different areas where we need to be educated. But if we can eliminate the survival aspect of it, we can get to a higher place, right? So we have to be educated out of survival.
Absolutely.
When we educate ourselves out of survival, we are no longer thinking and moving based on survival. So now we get to focus on the things that matter the most. Now we're having a higher level of conversation when we talk about family, because now when we talk about a woman being feminine, well, she's not worrying about money, so she can be softer, right? The child is not worried about survival. He's not getting into crimes. He's going into his imagination thinking about what is going to give me joy, right? The father is not pressured by the ills of life, so he's not coming in stressed, trying to find escapism outside of the family. He can focus here on creating a protected environment where he's handling things on different planes, from a spiritual, financial, physical, and mental plane, right? It elevates the whole entire culture. So the goal is educating us out of survival mode because it elevates your thinking to think bigger. So you can tell we're in survival mode because we hold on to the only thing we have, which is what we call culture. So we be like, this is our culture, our culture. We never say society. We never speak on society issues and problems because we feel like our problems that's happening in-house are so much of an immediate issue that I can't see anything else. So that's survival mode that teaches you that I can't focus on nothing bigger than myself. So it makes us narcissistic too, because now we become selfish. I don't have a lot, I won't share a lot, I don't care a lot, right? So there's a healing that comes along, and in that education, the education of healing and teaching us how to heal out of survival mode so that we can relax our nervous system, so that we're not always antsy with each other, right? And we're not in this race, because when we look at society, society has ills, problems, and issues, not just our culture, but we can't even see society because we saying that, well, no, it's my problems is bigger than everybody else's. That's not the way it's supposed to work.
Not at all.
The goal is to say, listen, society has issues with family. Society has issues with money right now. You know what I mean? America is going through recessions and things of that nature, right? The world is having wars, and all these things are not just personal to us. It's not just emasculation of the black male, even though that we've been dealing with this probably longer. But now it has spilled over to become a societal issue. And the reason that you start speaking in that manner is because it allows you to merge and partner with entities having the same issues, to where you start to create alliances that allow you to now strengthen, right, your resolve. So when we feel like I have to do everything by myself, I have to be the only one, right? And it's like, well, nigga, do it by yourself then. That's how the rest of the world look at it. Y'all only talk about your problems, so I'm supposed to not think about mine, even though my problems might be higher level. I might be stressing over things that you know nothing about, but do I drop all of that to help you? But when you start speaking on things in a manner to where it allows you to elevate things around you, then you like, oh, I see the benefit in that. But it's hard to think like that because this is if I gave all 500 people in here, I say, here's your assignment. You want people that are very rich to help you, right? But what if we try to give you that ability to help yourself, and we say, I will give you $1 billion if you can teach me how to spend it, right? And you can break it down how this $1 billion will be spent in totality to make a change. Now, it sounds simple. Spending $1 billion is not always that easy, right?
Right.
A person will think small and like, well, this is how I'm gonna use it for me immediately. We talk about $1 billion. Your problems are often too small to get helped because they don't involve enough people. It don't make enough change. So if you're a billionaire and you like, well, you talking about you need help with my billions, teach what give me your breakdown of plan, right? To where you going from a 10 million. No, first of all, you got to get to 100,000. For most people don't know how to spend 100,000 to make impact.
No, they
To
really
get to
don't.
1 million, to get to 10 million, to get to 100 million. Now we 500 million in. How are we spending this to create infrastructure change and systematic change? Then we get into $1 billion. Most people can't tell you how to do that, and the people that have it aren't thinking about the problems enough to know how to spend it. So there's this bridge that happens when you want to create change. It's called philanthropy, right? That's why they go through these different people, because these people have outlines and plans on what they will do with the money once they get it. They have these different systems set up. So when we become systematic, we think on a higher level, right? So this is why we have to get to a point where we start thinking different, even within family. We think different within our daily lives on everything that we do, because survival makes us think this small, right? This is all we can see is what's in front of us, right? Then when we get out of survival, all of a sudden the 2 eyes open, your third eye open. You know what I'm saying? You're in a different place. So I want to pour that into people. I really want us to get to this thinking. I want us to get out of this crutch mentality, and I want us to start walking on our own and learn how to be strategic in a world to where you can go about creating alliances. Look at these wars going on. What do they have? Alliances, right? They know how to create partnerships. When when you look at things on a global scale, these people, we've helped. My show helped change the visa requirements in Ghana. You know what I'm saying? Because we were able to go over there and have conversations with some of the leaders over there, utilizing our media and our influence. Now, I could have only cared about issues in America, but that means that, only people who care about issues in America care about me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but if I go out there and I call myself a global thought leader, right? I'm helping the world change, not just my world change. Now it strengthens those alliances that you have, right? So when you want to change things in your world, you're not just thinking about your resources. You have the ability to tap into the resources of all your allies, which strengthens and empowers you. We get to a different place.
See, a lot of people will have the education, right? They'll get the knowledge, but like to actually get on the plane and actually put that thought into action, there's folks that move more out of fear than faith. You know what I mean? And so, like for myself personally, just to shamelessly plug it in and make sure I get it back to the conversation for Thursday, like where I grew up at, I first grew up wanting to be like, the dude right outside my project building. You know what I'm saying? And then I went off, got me a little bit of education, and realized that, Wilmington was home of, David Walker, Robert Taylor, the first African-American to graduate with a degree in architecture, the first African-American to graduate from MIT, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And then I found out about all of the greatness that was stolen from this town. You know what I mean? And then when I found out about that, I started to look at why they worked so hard to get rid of the greatness that was here. And when I started to learn about these folks' journeys, I saw exactly what you're talking about. These people created their own lanes, they educated themselves, and they put that work in. And I went from studying the history to try to figure out how in the world do I become a part of the history too. But I realized in this journey that like everybody doesn't get enlightened when you get enlightened. And so I've been trying to figure out ways to cut that light on. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the reasons why, we're bringing you here to Wilmington, North Carolina this Thursday at the Dribble Drown Dinner and Discussion, because, you got a light that people can listen to, and I heard you talk about this earlier too. Not today, but on a high level conversation where you was just talking about how. Actually, I think you talked about it right before you got into the conversation with Dame Dash in your hometown in Oakland. You were just talking about how you had to leave because your light was too bright. You know?
Yes, sir.
And I'm just figuring out ways that we can really talk to folks around us to help them start seeing that instead of us having to go do the thing and now all of a sudden they want to circle back. You know what I mean?
It's one of those things where we can't skip the steps because that's the process, right? Until you get fertile minds that's not in that survival mode, which also makes you not trust people, right? You got to see it to believe it. We've been hurt a few times, and hurt, right, changes perspective, changes the way you go about doing things, right? It makes you more resistant to belief, right? And so I understand it because at one point in time, we may have been there as well. Somebody telling us something, it's like, but show me. And there's a framework for that. See, you can motivate people, right? That's giving them a motive to be in motion, to get active. That's what the motivation is. You're putting people in motion, right? Getting them going. And that can happen through words, right? It can happen through all different things. But when you show people, you're inspiring them, right? So now you're giving them the life within, right? Now they're like, oh, wow, I seen you do it. I can do it, right? It activates that part of themselves that has the belief in it, right? So inspiration makes people believe. But then when you teach them, now they know how to do it. So it's the education. So it's say, okay, you inspired, you want to do it. But, right, now you know how to do it because we just taught you. We just gave you the game. Here you go, right? Then we say, okay, how about, we automate the process for you. We'll do it for you because we just want you to get there, right? So we're now creating a system that you can go there as well versus, hey, I have to figure out how to get my son and daughter to believe in this thing so that they can do something I've never done before. Nope, no. Some people in the household saying, I'm going to show my son and daughter so that they can do the thing that I'm doing, right? And then some people say, I already did it, so now I'm going to set them up so that they can do the thing and go farther than what I've done. So there's layers to it, right? And so as we move and we understand the framework of it, now we can create systems to take us through a funnel for progress.